Hello, everybody. This is Dr. David Gustitus from Whole Body Health Chiropractic. Happy Tuesday. It is now noon. I'm going to start this webinar that we have prepared for you for today. It's called Rooted and Radiant, Nourishing Foods for Energy, Immunity, and Resilience. Let's get right into it. So why this? Why now? This time of year tends to be one of transition for many people. Getting back into the school routine. Kids are off to college. Some are empty nesters now. And just the change in the seasons also provokes thoughts and feelings about, I want to get my routine back. You see the nature changing, the leaves starting to fall, the temperature starts to change. Well, what about my body? What about some of the things that maybe my body needs to change or that have changed that I want to change back? Some people feel stress from the changes, fatigue, maybe a feeling of imbalance. Those are all common. These seasonal shifts start to test our energy and our immunity. Why? Because, well, for example, we're not outside as often in the sun. And what does that do? It leads to a decrease in vitamin D. There are some simple steps that you can take to build some resilience and to help you adapt better to this time of year and to these changes. So the reality is, people struggle with change. Change isn't always easy. And, when we say willpower just doesn't work long term, it's because, there's no system behind it. If I just have to muscle my way through changes and just keep, pushing my way through because, darn it, I'm going to make this happen, that doesn't lead to lasting change. That's kind of like the inspiration around a New Year's resolution. For most people, that lasts about a month. For some people who are really, really are able to stick to it, it's about 60, maybe 90 days. And then they're back to their old routine because they never created a system. And also, in many ways, the change is too abrupt. So, right now, with the changes in our schedules, getting back to school, getting back to work routines, and even how do I adapt my outside workout routine to becoming indoors? So, what do we find? We find energy crashes. Sometimes people are finding cravings that increase with fall weather, with the warmer weather. We start to make some of those comfort foods, which are great and lovely, but how can we do that in a way that promotes health? Our stress cycles as we experience these changes in the seasons and changes in life, these stress cycles come and go. And then they also pose a challenge if we're not adapting to it and figuring out what will be our new system, our way of living to help adapt to them going forward. And it creates a vulnerability to not just burnout, but to illness. Because if we start, burning the candle at both ends, if you will, or we stop doing the things that were healthy for us, like going on these hikes in the summertime or going outside and working out that made us feel good, the bike rides, playing outside with the kids and with soccer or with their lacrosse or whatever they like to do. Then we change our exercise routine as a result, and so then we're not burning our calories, we're not building our muscle, we're not burning off the stress, we're not keeping our bodies healthy with that important nutrient called exercise. So today, though, what we want to get into is what do we really want? So specifically, most people report to me, I want steady energy throughout the day. I want to have a strong immune system throughout the fall and winter. And I also want to have confidence in my body's resilience. Going through one illness is bad enough. But when you go through that illness and you feel like, oh, I was lucky to get over this illness, feeling like your health depends on luck is no way to live your life. Your health is actually something that's, I believe, God given. You're born with this ability through nature to have a body that is healthy. You have all these backup systems in your biology that help you adapt to the changes in your environment. And so when you're not adapting, that means that your resources, your reserves are depleted, and we need to work on getting you back to having those reserves be abundant and prepared and capable of handling what comes your way. Whether that's a virus that somebody introduces to your environment, a change in your sleep schedule, a change in your who's living at your house, a change in, hey, I need to be a parent every day, waking up, bright and early to get my kids off to school, and I wasn't getting up that early during the summer days. Whatever it is, just getting your body ready to be adaptable again. Our bodies are designed to thrive. not just survive, not just get through the day, not just, hang in there, but really to thrive and do well with what we're faced with and what we want to do. We come up with an idea, we should be able to put together a plan, have the energy to do it, get up, be motivated, and create something in our world. And many times people are depleted, and what they think about now is limited because they don't think that their bodies or their energy levels or their health can sustain it in order to bring that idea to fruition. So they end up shrinking down their vision, shrinking down their life goals, to accommodate that. And that's sad. I want to see people be the biggest version of themselves and have the balanced meals, that are made up of protein and fats and colorful plants, because we need the building blocks. Today, we're going to talk about building blocks of life, the foods that will help nourish you and help you repair and also function. Food is fuel and building blocks. It's not just calories. And having stable blood sugar means that it'll help support your mood and your focus. When we're depleted in our blood sugar, we tend to get crabby. The whole hangry idea. You see those Snickers commercials where somebody gets hangry. Well, that's a reality because our body, our brain particularly, runs on sugar. And if we're only dependent on our carb intake to convert that fuel source into brain fuel, then we will be totally dependent on what we're taking in. So we'll talk about more on that later. So the modern reality is that processed foods, as you're well aware, this is not anything new, but I just want to cover on some of these basic topics today that, processed foods dominate our diets. And what is a processed food? Well, if you look at the ingredient list of whatever you're buying and it has more than one ingredient, then chances are it's processed because it went through some process. They added something to it. They, heated it up, cooled it, made it into a powder. Somehow, how they changed it from its natural state that Mother Nature presented it in. Toxins are abundant, right? We know that as well, but we need to stay on top of it, and we need to do something on a regular basis to help our bodies get rid of them, but also to avoid them as they come in. So things like oils, seed oils, particularly additives in our foods, plastics in our packaging, and in our environment, and just drinks. So many drinks are like alcohol, for example, is full of toxins, not just even from the alcohol itself, but certainly from alcohol. And lastly, stress, and poor fuel leads to energy crashes. If we're asking more of our body than it can produce, we're going to have a stress breakdown. And poor fuel on top of that means we're not even replenishing what we're pulling from our system. What is the cost of doing nothing? If we just stay put, we just say, you know what, I don't have time to get into this. I don't have time to work on this. Well, the reality is we're going down a highway, at whatever speed, usually highway speed, and there's signs everywhere saying the bridge is out. The bridge is out, maybe not right now, maybe not in a mile, but it's out, 5 miles down, 10 miles down. 20 years down the road, the bridge is out. Well, if we keep heading down this road, it gets bumpier first, and then it gets choppy, and then it gets off-roading, and then it becomes, oh, there's the bridge, and it's out. So we need to work on putting our bodies on a healthier path early so that we don't have to go through all those bumps and choppy and off-road experiences like symptoms and illnesses and things that we have to scramble to fix. What if we took a more proactive and preventative strategy? Our bodies, like I said, are designed to function, designed to heal, designed to produce health. So let's work on some of the things that can help us prevent a weakened immunity, help us prevent the ongoing fatigue and the cravings, that are, really meant to satisfy that extreme fatigue. Um, Inflammation and metabolic breakdown, gaining weight that we had no idea where did that come from, or chronically feeling like our joints and our muscles are achy and stiff, and wow, I feel older than I should. And then lastly, chronic disease. The definition of chronic disease is something that it won't leave you. It's going to be something you carry with you the rest of your life. And one out of four Americans has one chronic disease, according to the CDC, and one out of six has two or more chronic diseases. So those are significant realities that means that people are not healthy. I know there's a lot of talk about trying to address these things, but for me and my objective, our mission here at Whole Body Health Chiropractic is to change the health of our community and ideally help that ripple out to the world. So we're going to do our part here locally to try to help you, your family, to try to prevent some of these negative health outcomes. So what is our rooted and radiant strategy? It comes down to these six pillars, six strategies. One, a meal building framework, energetic foods, resilience foods, toxins to avoid, how to restore metabolism, and then smart swaps and prep. This is a cursory discussion. This is an intro. What I'm going to start doing starting next month is we're going to introduce our advanced workshops. We're going to rotate through how you eat well, how you move well, and how you think well. This is an intro into the eat well component, and these advanced workshops will be in person. I'm not sure whether we'll be recording those for virtual consumption, but for sure we'll be starting those next month. So this is an introductory session. I want to give you some things that you can take away and apply. Not something that becomes just yesterday's thought that, oh, I tried it for a day and I didn't apply it. Just hopefully you come away with one of these, just one strategy that can change your habits and your family's habits to help build better health. So, what is a meal building framework? Well, let's look at this. Each meal, you want to have 20 to 30 grams of protein. You want to have healthy fats. Healthy fats are avocado, olive oil, nuts, and seeds. Now, it's not seed oil, okay? But avocados and avocado oil, olive oil, nuts, and seeds, those are healthy fats. Also, fish oil is a healthy fat, very healthy. Um, Carbs that are matched to your activity and energy needs, and I'll talk about that in a minute, and also half your plate in colorful plants. Now, when I talk about carbs, my preference is to go for vegetable-based carbs and preferably more like sweet potato, okay? Avoiding the grains unless they're prepared properly. Humans are not designed to consume grains unless they are prepared and put in a state that we can digest properly. The lectins, which are commonly known in grains as gluten, such as in wheat, wheat lectins are called gluten, and those they can wreak havoc on our digestive tract. Some people are not as sensitive as others, but those who are sensitive can have a tremendous inflammatory response, and it can contribute to things like autoimmunity. So we have to watch the grain consumption. We want to, if we're going to have carbs, we're going to keep them at a level that is consistent with what our energy burn is, and also our goals as far as metabolic and overall health, as far as body composition. But half of your plate in colorful plants. What do I mean by that? Look at the rainbow of colors. What can you put on your plate that covers the rainbow? Look at greens, look at reds, look at yellows and oranges, purple, even blue, like, right? Just try to look at the grocery store in the produce section and think of it from a rainbow standpoint. What are the things, what are the colors in the rainbow you haven't bought lately? And try to find a way to get those onto your plate. Energetic foods, well, these are foods that are essential to helping you maintain not only your energy in terms of fuel, but also energy in terms of the energy burning and energy creating systems like muscle in your body. So proteins, obviously essential for building and repairing muscle. Proteins ideally come from healthy, lean, grass-fed, pasture-raised animals like chicken, beef, turkey. Those are all great. You can go into wild game if you like. You can do bison. Um, you can get into fish. Be careful about fish. You want to go for wild caught, cold water fish. You want to watch out for the bigger fish. So, like tuna, for example, tuna is a bigger fish. It tends to bioaccumulate mercury. So tiny fish like sardines, they accumulate small amounts. You're going to have small amounts of mercury. But when the bigger fish have eaten the medium fish have eaten the smaller fish, that mercury continues on in the flesh of the fish that has eaten it. And so when we eat that fish, we just take in that mercury and those ocean-borne toxins as well. So eating lower in the food chain in the ocean is best, such as sardines, anchovies, etc. Salmon are really good. Just make sure, like I said, it's wild caught, not farm raised. Fats, fish are good for fats for the brain. The fish oil components, EPA and DHA. DHA particularly good for brain cell building, so nerve cell building, but also synapse formation in the brain. EPA is an important component of fish oil as well, and that is has an important role for lowering inflammation in the body. But fats are also essential for energy. So if we can have a more fat leaning dependency on in terms of our fuel burning rather than carbs and sugars, we will have a longer, slower burn and more steady blood sugar level, um, and less of a demand on our pancreas, less of a demand on our system for going through this fluctuation of sugar intake and sugar burn. Sugar gets burned through really fast, leaving us with a void, leading us to be, craving certain foods, carb-containing foods, to replace that. But if we're burning more fats on a regular basis, we tend to level that out. And hormone production. Cholesterol, for example, cholesterol is the mother of all hormones. And we need enough fat in our diet to make cholesterol in order to make all of our hormones. If we don't have it, we can't make it. So cholesterol is really gets a bad rap as if all cholesterol is bad, but without it, you can't make your hormones. So just remember that cholesterol is essential to life. And lastly, plants for nutrients, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and the fiber that plants have. So the crunchier ones are going to have the insoluble fibers. Other ones that are less crunchy are going to be able to, like apples, for example, are soluble fiber, and those are great for carrying away things like um, extra fats in our diet that we need to carry away from our diet as they go through our intestinal tract. But having a good balance between soluble and insoluble fiber is super important. Fall and winter resilience foods. So right now, this time of year, what are some good ones to help boost your immune system? Garlic, um, you know, a, a single clove of garlic or a teaspoon of minced garlic when it's raw can boost your immune system. Now, the thought of raw garlic by itself doesn't appeal to me too much, but if I minced up a teaspoon worth of garlic and put it in with my food, like in my salad, mix it up with some olive oil and some oregano and maybe some lemon and balsamic vinegar. That would be a nice salad dressing. It's still raw, and then it's going to add some really good punch to your salad dressing and the flavor. Mushrooms are also great for their immune boosting properties. There's several of them. Shiitake, maitake are really good ones. Citrus, obviously high in vitamin C. Don't forget the white lining of the citrus, the skin. So when you open up an orange and you have that white membranous lining on the inside of the orange peel, that is full of vitamin C. So don't throw that away. Make sure you eat that. And then ginger, also really good. It's anti-inflammatory. Garlic and ginger have antimicrobial properties, but ginger particularly is anti-inflammatory. Minerals, you can find abundance of minerals in certainly your dark leafy greens like your kale, collard greens, Swiss chard, arugula, but also in pumpkin seeds and in seaweed. Seaweed's high in iodine. Um, Gut foods, most people are aware of this. Fermented foods, right? So sauerkraut, kefir, fiber-rich veggies are also really important for building your gut. Those are prebiotics. Inulin, artichokes are also really good for helping boost gut health. But cruciferous veggies and sweet potatoes are great at building gut health because of their prebiotic qualities. Toxins to avoid, they really are everywhere. We have to be very mindful, and some people can get paralyzed by becoming aware of what toxins are in our environment. But processed foods tend to be laden with toxins. They get processed by being exposed to this, bleached with that, and eventually, they turn it into something that, now we can eat this, like industrial seed oils, like sunflower, safflower, vegetable oil, that whole category are industrial seeds that have been turned into an oil originally used for industrial processes to cool and to lubricate machines, not for human consumption. But then they did a little work to it to make it more palatable, and now it can be put into food as an adjunct or something to help make the food either more palatable, help make it have the right consistency, but never really was it meant to be healthy for us in that industrial process state. So if you look at seed oils, really be careful about what you're getting and what it's been through. So I generally recommend vegetable oil, that whole category, canola, safflower, sunflower, all those are really ones to avoid. Um, Alcohol, it's a toxin. It's an easy one to avoid. It's right there. I know some people love their drinks. There's conflicting evidence. If you look for what does it do for heart health, and you look at some of the studies, you say, well, if that's all you're looking at, it can improve heart health. But if you look at other studies that say, well, it increases your risk of colon cancer and or GI tract cancers, um, it far exceeds the benefits that you're getting from the heart health. And if you only look at the one because it makes sense or it fits your narrative, then we're missing the big picture. Alcohol is a toxin. It's a reality. If you have too much of it, you're just exposing your gut lining and those cells to a mutagenic factor, something that creates mutations and that can lead to cancer formation if with chronic regular exposure. Artificial sweeteners, watch out for your stevia. I know everybody says, oh, it's a natural alternative to sugar. However, stevia has a very potent sweet inducing effect on your brain. Your brain is looking for the sweet sensation. And when it gets exposed to stevia, I read that it was up to a 300 times increased sweetening effect when you didn't get the blood sugar raise, but you got that effect in your brain that led you to feel as if you had had that much sugar. As a result, you crave it that much more, which is a huge problem going forward. Now all of a sudden you've got me, looking for more sweetening in my food profile, in my nutrition, and now I'm going to look for it even more than I did before. So you got to be really careful with stevia. And lastly, plastics and other chemicals in our environment. The off-gassing from new furniture or carpets, plastics that things are wrapped in. Try to avoid that as much as possible. When you have a choice, when you're at the mall, at the grocery store, try to put it in your bag that you're carrying with you as you're assembling your cart instead of putting everything in a bag. It's convenient and it also saves the life of or prolongs the life of your vegetables if you have them in plastic. So there's a practical side to that. But as soon as you can get it out of the plastic, that's something that's not easy, even for us in our household. We're aware of it. It's not easy, but I'd encourage you to avoid plastic in your wrapping and your containers as much as you can. Restoring metabolic health. So really, this comes down to matching the carbs and the fuel that you have coming in to your activity levels. So the more active you are, in particular today, let's say you just did a heavy workout, you will deplete your glycogen stores, right? If in some workouts, not everybody, but you can deplete the blood sugar levels first. Then you'll pull from glycogen from your muscles and your liver, and you'll start to burn down your reserves, and you'll need to replenish, and that's fine. Those days are good days to replenish your carbs. Not every workout, mind you, depletes your glycogen, especially the long ones, though. Those do deplete your stores, and you need to put it back. But your body will do that without the huge carb influx. You'll put it back a little at a time, but it's good to boost post, especially strength workouts, to have your carbs, have your protein, to fuel your body. It'll boost your growth hormone levels and help you build that muscle that you're trying to build anyway. However, if you're more sedentary, you don't need as many carbs because you're not depleting your blood sugar levels. You're not tapping into your glycogen storage. And so by having abundance of carbs in your bloodstream, what does your body do with it? it says, well, I'm just going to package this as fats, triglycerides, more cholesterol, and we're going to store it away, store it away, store it away. We have an endless ability to store away excess sugars. Our body says, well, save it for a rainy day, save it for a rainy day. What do? We just keep gaining weight. It's a storage system. It's smart because what if we're going down the road as our hunter-gatherer nomadic ancestors used to do down the road? They'd go down the path or they'd go down in the field, not on a road, but they would have to go without. And if they had 2 or 3 or 4 days without food, then they would have to tap into their body's storage tank of fat if they had it, and then burn that first because they had 2 or 3 days to figure it out, right? They didn't have food access. Maybe they were going for a hunt and they were looking for some animal or maybe some nuts or some fruit that might be in season and they hadn't found it yet. Well, then you have to tap into what you have. But if our storage system is our body, and we have an abundance of food 24/7 in our kitchen that we can always open up and continue to feed on. We never are without. We never have the fasting period. We never have that period where we're going to draw down our resources. And that becomes a problem, a cycle that continues. Nothing that GLP-1 can really fix. GLP-1 can fix by shutting down your cravings and your hunger, but it doesn't fix that pattern. So once you're off GLP-1, then what are you going to do? Are you going to work on a new pattern, a new system in your lifestyle to help you not go there again? Or are we going to have to go back to GLP-1 in the future? The problem with it is that what about the nutrition that we're not getting when our appetite is suppressed? So that's my worry about these more shorter term, yes, effective, but shorter term and long term risky, short term successful, long term risky strategies. For weight loss, cut the starches and boost the veggies and the oil. I should have put oil on there. The fats, the oils, the healthy ones to help you be more of a fat burner. You prime the pump and then you don't have the carbs that your brain is seeking. And you also start to burn the sugar in your bloodstream and start to pull from your storage, which ultimately you switch into more that ketogenic, that nutritional ketosis, which is something we can work on. If you want to reach out to me, I'm happy to talk you through how to make that happen. That's a more longer term, sustainable way of managing your body composition. It's not about weight loss, it's about health. I want to make sure that you're not having this excess amount of blood sugar, creating excess fats, excess triglycerides, problems for inflammation because when your blood sugar goes up, your insulin goes up, and your inflammation goes up. When you have high blood sugar, sticky blood, think about syrup or honey in your veins instead of more of a watery, bloody mixture that is flowing through there easily. The honey is sticky, it doesn't flow as well. It's harder to push that through. Your heart has to work extra hard. Blood pressure goes up. You get the idea. It just makes it harder to have a healthier heart and even healthier circulation of all the things you're trying to push around. Your brain starts to get deprived of the oxygen it needs. Your body has a tougher time to oxygenate because the blood doesn't work as well. So we want to make sure that that whole pattern is turned around on a root level. Lastly, when you're eating, eat fresh fiber first. Not only is it filling, not only does it help to provide you with the nutrients first, you're getting the big rocks in. If you've ever heard of that story, you want to fill the pitcher with the big rocks, the most important ones, and then you do the little rocks, and then you do the sand. If you do it the other way around, you'll never fit the big rocks in. If you do sand, then little rock, the medium rocks, and then the big ones, the big rocks will never fit because the sand filled up all the bottom of the pitcher. In this case, get your fresh fiber first, which is a raw fruit or vegetable in your diet. You eat that first at every meal. That way you're getting the fiber for your gut, you're getting the water content from that fruit or vegetable, and you're getting the vitamins and minerals that your body needs, the antioxidants, etc. Then you add protein and your fats, and last, carbs. Try not to make your meals carb focused or carb centric. That's where I think, go off track and into poor health. So smart swaps, these are some things you can take away right away. You know, a lot of people crave their soda. If you could just switch that out for some sparkling water and lemon or lime, that would be a great switch. very much a healthier choice. Switch your chips out for veggies and hummus. These are some easy ones. Uh, for protein snacks, try to go for nuts, hard-boiled eggs, or maybe some jerky. Look for some of those jerkies that have no additives, no extra ingredients. It's just beef. Ideally, get the pasture-raised, healthier ones. And then lastly, do some batch prep work for your veggies for quick meals. Get your hands on some ball jars on Sunday, chop up a bunch of veggies, spread them out equally into those five, say 5 jars, one for each day of the week. Pack those, pack the bigger, heavier, like your that same conversation about the big rocks. Put your big chunkier veggies in first, then your easier ones to fit around. I would say put your leafy greens in first because those are easily smashed. So in this case, sand, compared to my story before, sand is not easily smashed down, but your leafy greens, whether it's baby kale or spinach or arugula or romaine, chop that up really small, smash that down, then start to put your carrots and your celery and your cucumbers, and then seal it up with your lid, put it in the fridge, and you're all ready to go. You can dump that out. Some people actually do switch that around so that your greens are on top. Either way, whatever is easiest for you. But if you put your greens on top, it does have the practical application of if you have a bowl, you're at work, you dump that out, your greens are on the bottom. Now your salad is all kind of ready to go. Maybe you have some even chicken in there that you can have on the side that you chop up and put in a little container, and you put that chicken on top, or your tuna. Your we talked about wild caught tuna. Go for the wild caught. Some people have I like sardines. If I say sardines, not everybody's going to jump for it. Tuna at least is a protein, so it's a better choice than others. It's not as good because of the mercury. We just try to make the next best choice. Sardines, I love them because they're smaller fish, like I said before. But batch prepping veggies for quick meals, if you're going to chop them up, if you're getting in that chopping mode, do it for a couple nights. Do it for tonight and tomorrow, or make a big batch that you can have some leftovers. You have it tonight, and then you have it in 2 or 3 days. Some proof that it works. There's a lot of proof that out there in terms of science showing that improved energy and fewer colds, fewer infections come from having your diet switched out. If you get your diet right, if you lower those carbs, you lower the sugars in your diet, you're going to be less vulnerable to infection. It's been shown through many different ways that when people with every teaspoon of sugar that you have in your food, your immune system takes a hit. It gets shut down. Um, Energy in my practice, my patients have a great number of examples to show me that when they start changing their diet, they feel better, their mood gets improved, they're less depressed, they have more energy in the morning, they sleep more soundly. Again, that sugar up and down, that roller coaster, if you have a lot of carbs and especially like say a big dessert at dinner time after dinner, and you go to bed, you're going to burn through that sugar with a big insulin spike. When that insulin goes to work, lowers your blood sugar back down in the middle of the night, 2 or 3 in the morning, you'll wake up with no blood sugar because your insulin did its work. Now your body has to get some blood sugar back up because that's a problem to having too low a blood sugar. What will it do? It'll increase your cortisol levels. Cortisol's job is to get you blood sugar. If your cortisol goes up, all of the things that cortisol normally does will happen. One of the jobs, one of the effects is to get you blood sugar. However, its other jobs are as a stress hormone. It will increase your heart rate. It will increase your stroke volume of your heart. It'll make you feel like your heart is pounding fast and powerfully in your chest. And you'll wake up in 2 or 3 in the morning wondering, why am I wide awake? It will increase your alertness because you're telling your body, hey, I'm stressed. But you're really not. You just had low blood sugar because you had too many sugars and carbs at dinner. So try to slow down, lower that level of sugar at dinner, and it'll make a big difference in your energy levels and also help you with your immune system. Small changes over time create significant results. I don't want you to feel like you have to make all the changes that I'm introducing today. Just make one, make two. Just do a couple things that you can adopt and then come back to it and think about, all right, what else can I adopt? Science supports a low toxin, nutrient dense diet. The most common studies out there today are about the Mediterranean diet. It's very close to the earth, it's locally grown, locally sourced, in season fruits and vegetables and meats that people are consuming on a regular basis around the Mediterranean region. They're not having processed foods. They make the foods themselves, homemade, gather with family. These are things that really lead to a much more healthy lifestyle and health profile for people. But low toxin is super important over time. Your next step, upgrade one meal this week. Just pick one. Do your breakfast, do your dinner, do your lunch. Swap one toxin heavy food, like I was just saying before, your tuna, swap it out for sardines, swap it out for roasted or like oven roasted chicken. Get a whole chicken, put some oregano, some garlic, salt, pepper, a couple of lemons, squeeze lemons over that chicken and marinate it, the whole chicken in those lemons and olive oil and some balsamic vinegar. Let that marinate for like an hour or two, maybe 4 hours or even better, and then oven bake it. Cut that, cut the chicken breast, cut the meat off the bone, and you can even put that in an Instant Pot or slow roast it, slow cook it in your slow cooker. Cut that out, and then make that be your cubed protein to go with your lunches for next week instead of, say, tuna or instead of the store-bought meat or whatever you're going to have as an alternative. And then start tracking your energy and your mood after your meals. Notice when you get sleepy. Notice when you feel lethargic or you feel like, oh, I don't really want to go back to work. And maybe that's a problem with work too. But the reality is, if you start feeling like, yeah, I don't have any energy for my day, then look at what your energy feels like, particularly, and your mood, particularly after certain meals, and see what might I be eating that is contributing to me feeling that way. And then if any of this was valuable to you, share it with a friend, share it with somebody you love, share some of these ideas. This is an introductory talk to get you thinking out of the box. This is to wrap up our summer reset series. I want to help you to get into the fall season with some really good strategies. Some of these maybe are old news, but maybe if they're old news that you haven't applied yet, maybe it's time to apply it. Give it a shot. Take one of these on as far as what you're going to do for the next week. And I'd love to hear from you how you're doing with it. If this is valuable, please reach out to us. I do these really to download some information, download some ideas to give you some more strategies that we don't have time to get over or get to cover when we're here in the practice during regular office visits. But this gives me a chance to speak to many of you in a more in-depth way that I feel can be impactful. So take these and let me know also, what could we do better? What topics did I not cover that you'd like to hear me cover in the next one? So get evaluated, find out how you're doing, look at look at your own food diary, but also we can do a food diary discussion. We can have a consultation around what you're doing, how you're doing, but get your overall health evaluated from a root cause holistic point of view. That's the approach that we take here at Whole Body Health Chiropractic. We want to know how your biology is working. How is your physiology, your body's way of functioning in response to your environment? That is your adaptability. True health equals adaptability. Your life is going to pose you challenges from now until the rest of your days, and those challenges need to be met with a resilient body. And if we are too stuck, too rigid, and have too much friction that we're already dealing with, we're going to have a tough time adding more to that pile or to that load. So we want to offload what we have. That's what we do with chiropractic. And we also want to have a lifestyle that doesn't add more stressors to your body. Rather, it just feeds you and nourishes you and gives you what you're looking for, what you need. So live your life well adjusted, well adapted, and schedule your appointment if you're not a current patient. I'd love to take care of you and see what we can do to help you live a better life. So have a great day. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you on the next one.